From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast Practitioner Brief, June 9th, 2022. Lots going on in the world of cybersecurity. RSA is wrapping up. If you're in San Francisco, wonderful. Hope you had a great time. Can't wait to see y'all at Black Hat. That's one. Number two, a lot going on in cyber. A lot, so much, it's not even funny. We'll talk about all of that on today's show. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Eric Krohn from KnowBe4 will be joining me for 30 minutes talking about business email compromise and then a trivia round with a ton of swag coming your way for the winner. So don't miss that tomorrow, 1 p.m. Mark it on your calendars. We'll be going live, Eric and I. 15 minutes of conversations, 20 minutes around BEC, then a few minutes of trivia. We'll test your knowledge. And the winner gets some really cool swag from KnowBe4 and some really cool exclusive CyberHub podcast swag. So it's all of that coming your way tomorrow. All right. Before we get into today's program, my double espresso, whatever you're drinking this morning, make it yours. Enjoy it. It's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. For a lot of us, tomorrow around 3 o'clock, we all want to turn off our phones. If you're a CISO, you don't really do that. Coffee cup cheers, folks. Let's get into this massive Facebook Messenger phishing operation that's generating millions. Researchers have uncovered a large-scale phishing operation that abused Facebook and Messenger to lure millions of users to phishing pages, tricking them into entering their account credentials and seeing ads. The campaign's operators use these stolen accounts to send further phishing messages to their friends, generating significant revenue via online advertising commissions. According to Pixum, which is a New York-based AI-focused cybersecurity firm, the campaign peaked in April and May of this year and has been active since at least September of 2021. While it's unknown how the campaign initially started, victims started arriving at landing pages from a series of redirects, all originating from Facebook Messenger. In some of these places, they were doing credential stuffing. Others, they were using legitimate URL generation services like lich.me or famous.co or amaze.co or funnel preview, which would really kind of get through any spam filters that existed. And after they would do that, they'd gain unauthenticated access and so forth. Really significant, kind of showing you that the challenges for many practitioners isn't just in defending your employees at home or defending your employees at work. You've got a lot more than that beyond just, kind of defending a password or protecting it simply because through just standard social media messaging during off hours, they could be compromised. And that's why this next story to me is a direct correlation to this one. Apple just killed the password, and it's for real this time, according to Wired. Apple's WWDC on Monday, huge, right? Apple iOS 16 and macOS Ventura will introduce passwordless login for all apps and all websites, and it's just the beginning. So will we never see the password again, or QWERTY, or 1 through 9, or 1 through 6, or whatever? So kind of. So passkeys are going to replace passwords. They're going to use Touch ID or Face ID, whatever's on your device, right? All great. Question is, how are you going to manage those keys? How are the apps going to manage those keys? And then how does the identity get passed down in the event that you're trying to do single sign-on? All of those very valid questions to the passwordless system. I think we're at the very beginning of it. It's a good move forward, but I think internally within organizations, the FIDO Alliance and FIDO 2 standards for passwordless and the way we manage tokens are going to be critical in how passwordless is implemented correctly, right? It's kind of like multi-factor authentication. If you do multi-factor authentication, right, you've significantly reduced your risk. You do it wrong, you've only increased your risk. And so this is going to be very, very difficult. So multi-device FIDO credentials, passkeys, there's so much going on there. Apple, Microsoft, Google, all declaring their support for this FIDO standard as well. And the passwordless remains, how can it be implemented in legacy systems that may not be able to analyze a passwordless type of login? And that's going to be kind of the ultimate solution. What does that look like and how do we do it? Linux botnets are now exploiting critical Confluence bug Altassian, right? So several botnets are now using exploits targeting a critical remote code execution vulnerability that infects Linux servers running unpatched Confluence server and data center installs. The successful exploitation of the flaw allows unauthenticated attackers to create new admin accounts, execute commands, and ultimately take over the server to the back door. Guys, there's a patch. If you haven't done it, please get those systems patched. This is only going to get worse. The same goes for Follina and the Windows 0-day to spread Qbot malware. Again, the Windows 0-day vulnerability, Follina, that impacts Word docs, all right, and impacts the Microsoft Support Diagnostic tool, is already being exploited by a lot of state-backed threat actors. China, we've seen Iran and many others try to take advantage of that. But now we're seeing cyber criminals trying to do it on a Qbot malware. So that Qbot malware piece is going to be really significant. They're essentially using Follina to exploit. They're using Follina to exploit it and drop the Qbot ransomware and malware, and from there ransomware. So fun stuff there if you haven't patched yet. China's hacking group Aoqin Dragon has been spying on organizations for years, some of this going as far back as 2013. They're focused on cyber espionage. They target government, education, and telecom organizations in Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Australia. We obviously know that the telecom hijacking and the spying and the espionage that was done for years in Hong Kong was how the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government were able to take over Hong Kong through so-called protests. And then the counter protests, how they were able to shut it down, was because of the knowledge that they had on that telco. So definitely significant changes there. A bunch of different intrusions and infection tactics, including using some very old Microsoft Office known exploits and vulnerabilities like CV 2012-0158 or 2010-3333. The second infection method, obviously, is making malicious executables with fake antivirus icons and so much more. Sentinel has a whole write-up on it, but you can see how they've sat around for ages, stood there and just spied and gathered data. So something significant. Finally, new report comes out that says it doesn't pay to pay ransomware. It finds that 80% of ransomware victims are attacked again. When I started this podcast about 4 years ago now, right? One of the things in the very first episodes we ever talked about was the idea of ransomware and how the moment you pay for it, you're on a list. And once you're on that list has value because you paid. Kind of like customers who buy something from you. Customers who buy something from your organizations are typically targeted. Why? Because they've already paid. There's been that kind of establishment that they've got the funds. Same applies for ransomware. Ransomware operators operate under the same thing. If you've been targeted before and you've paid, they're probably going to come back. Why? Because they know you paid the first time. You'll probably pay the second time as well. That goes on to say why you shouldn't be paying ransomware at all. Just a concept there. I know that in some cases that's very hard to do, but you can tell that the affiliates retain the lead. They sell it to other gangs. It's literally like a retargeting, remarketing campaign in all other aspects of legitimate business, only here for cyber criminals. Folks, that's it for our show today. We're wrapping up this week. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., I'll be here with Eric Krohn live, talking about business email compromise, as well as some cyber trivia with some really cool swag that we're going to be sending to you for the winner of our trivia contest. Till then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, practice good security hygiene and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.